Yo, 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 yo. What's good, guys? It's your boy Player X here with the Semi Limited Podcast. Just wanted to say thank you for everyone who's been viewing, basically showing love to the channel and the platform as much as you guys have been. It's a real honor to be doing something I actually thoroughly enjoy doing for you guys, and to hear the love back just makes me want to do it even more. So thank you guys for following and supporting and showing us all that love. We'd love to give it back to you guys as well. Before we get into today's episode, which is really just going to be all about Age of Overlord, as we are constantly approaching for this set to be released. We have sneak peeks over the weekend that you guys have probably went to. So hopefully you guys had some good pulls, you guys had some good tournaments, some nice banners or mats were pulled, promo cards were received. Whatever you guys got, hopefully it was great for you guys. But we're going to be going over all that stuff going into this next format and just making sure that everyone's up to date as far as what's being released and then how it's implemented into this next format. But before we get into that, a bunch of these sponsors and stuff we have to talk about. So be sure to go into that Linktree link down below in the description box. You'll be able to click on that. A bunch of tabs will be coming up, so that way you can follow all of our social sites, whether it be X, Instagram, our Facebook page, YouTube, all that stuff. You'll be able to click on all those sites and follow. Just be aware that we have another giveaway for X and TikTok at 50 followers. And then we have our IG and YouTube giveaways at 100 followers. So we're pretty close on Instagram and X. To get those back-to-back ones would be really great. Stop making me say this shit. Just go follow the pages so we can get done with this shit. And then also shout outs to our sponsors over at Unplugged Gaming in Manlius, New York for sponsoring the podcast. Be sure to join their Discord server in the description box below and be a part of their TCG communities. You can go to their Discord, click on it, and then join all the communities such as Magic, One Piece, Digimon, Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever card game you guys are into, you can go down there and join any of those communities involved and participate, get some trades going on, maybe get the next big info on the next deck that you're going to be playing or whatever it may be. But if you also stop into the store, be sure to tell them that the boys over at Semi Limited sent you, and they'll be sure to hook you up. Speaking of Unplugged, they will be helping us sponsoring our Age of Overlord case tournament, which we'll be hosting on Saturday, October 21st at their location in Manlius, New York. A case of the newest set, Age of Overlord, will be split amongst the top cut for placing. There's going to be a bunch of OTS packs, maybe a pizza party for if we get enough people, because I know Joe likes to give back to the community as often as he loves giving to the community. So we'll be sure to be hosting that. It's going to be Saturday, October 21st at 1 p.m. It'll be $25 entry. So just be sure you pull up there. I'm going to be trying to having it live stream for you guys. If not, just know that I'm going to be there taking pictures. We're going to be doing content runs for our YouTube reels and our Instagram reels and for TikTok and stuff. So be a part of that. Make sure you dress your best, and we'll be sure to get all the coverage for that as well. Just to give everyone a reminder of the new upload schedule that I talked about last episode, we will have podcast drops every Tuesday and Friday. Our live streams will be hosted through Brad on Twitch, Mr. Perfect, every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the East Coast of the United States for those who are time zone friendly. And then after that, we will have the short form content dropping on Wednesdays and Sundays, whether it be a new reel or a new TikTok, a new YouTube short. We're going to have those on Wednesdays and Sundays, along with the streams on Saturdays and podcasts every Tuesday and Friday, guys. I'm working real hard to get you guys everything you guys could possibly want from us as far as content, and I appreciate everyone taking the time and working with us to make sure it gets happening. Without any further ado, I want to kind of get into this episode because I don't want it to be a too crazy long one, but I do want to make sure we get enough time to get into the nitty gritty, along with introducing our guest, who was a returning guest, by the way. I love having him on. He's a big staple in the Buffalo, New York community, and a lot of the things that I used to watch were off of his page as far as like locals commentary and rematches. What was it? Segments like one deck 1 month. If you guys know what I'm talking about, then you know who the boy is. But give it up, Winner Kills.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Good to be back.
Oh, absolutely, man. Is there any like shout outs or plugins you want to get into before we just jump right into this episode?
Yeah, just two. First one would be like shout out to Imperium Duelists, longtime sponsor of my channel since like 2018. Code Winner Kills 10 off at checkout, etc., etc. And the other thing I'd like to give a shout out to is the final episode of One deck 1 month for Infernal Night should be up by then, and we still have an ongoing fundraiser for the Wild Bird Fund. And so far we've raised $634, which is amazing. So
Hey, yo,
I
let's
still
go.
yet to, yeah, I still have yet to donate my half to it or my part to it yet. So definitely not only check out the episode, but definitely consider donating to our nonprofit fundraiser on the video page itself. So yeah, I just wanted to give that a shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that I'm learning about all this right now, I'll be sure that Semi-Limited contribute to that as well, just to help out the cause.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no. And then getting into the episode, for guys who don't know, Age of Overlord is the next core set that will be dropping into TCG. It is due to release on October 20th, which I think is the Friday before the case tournament for Syracuse area. So did you have any like overall thoughts before we kind of dive in? Anything that kind of sticks out to you as far as like what makes a good set, what kind of makes a flop set? Do you think that this will be a flop, or do you think that this set will actually stick as sets like Photon Hypernova or even sets like Rise of the Duelist?
I think the set will definitely be better than the last set, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Dueling Nexus.
Yeah,
Or
just
Duelist
because
Nexus,
like yeah, like the usually like one staple like SP Little Knight is like it's a good start for a set to be really good, but I don't think you can like make a set super popular and like have it stand the test of time and like be worth the hype off just one card alone like that. Even though SP Little Knight is really good, but just looking on the cards you've highlighted and the cards I've been seeing get revealed over the past couple weeks, like I think the set definitely has it's not a one-trick pony, if that makes any sense. Like it's got a lot going for it. Like you have the Horus cards.
Yeah, I can agree.
The Diabell Star, which I haven't really seen too much of. I've been hearing about it being really good, so I think it's got a lot going for it. And I think as people get more time to like play with all the new stuff coming out, like the Snake Eyes stuff, the Ken and Gen, and the Horus stuff, like Diabell Star, I think it'll just get better as time goes on.
I think we were talking about this a little bit in our usual group as far as in our Discord general talk. So if anyone who's listening is not a part of it, you can also be sure to go to that Linktree link below, and our Discord link is also there as well. Be sure to be a part of our community, and you can be included in conversations like this before we start recording. But we were talking about it, and I think that I had said that in order for I think a set to be labeled as not a flop, that it should include at least 2 generically good cards, which are, in my opinion, cards that can go into any deck regardless of the archetype or tech cards that you play in them, that they're most likely going to be in them. And then it has to have 1 archetype or line of cards or monsters, spells, traps, whatever it is, that actually has some sort of influence or impact in the meta, as I would say maybe tier 1.5 and up. And in this case, I think we have a pretty good lineup of that, with generic cards like SP Little Knight that can be splashed into almost every single extra deck I think was going to be playing it. We've got cards like this Stellar Nemesis Typhon, or whatever the hell it is, Typhoon, Doomsday Star, the Anti-Zeus, whatever the hell you want to call it. He's another good generic card. With archetypes like the Diabell Star being a level 7 that can be played in decks like Kashtira, and decks like Rescue Ace, and in decks like Volcanics that search level 1 fires or special them to the field at least. I think that's going to be another good archetype. And of course, the Horus, its own archetype, being basically a rank 8 spam deck. I think that those all have strong contenders and should be able to make at least a little bit of wave in this format coming up. So I do agree that this is looking like probably one of the best sets of this year. I don't think another core set is due to drop this year. I think Phantom Nightmare comes out in early January, or if not late January, if I'm not mistaken. But for this year, I think this is a solid core set that we're going to be using. I wouldn't put it up at Rise of the Duelist status, because I still think that droplets and talents were way more generic. But I will put it above Photon Hypernova as far as like allowing generic cards and other decks to be able to compete now at a higher level because of their introduction or importing.
I can get behind that.
So what are your thoughts on the overall set? You think that it's going to be impactful enough? Do you think that it'll remain quote unquote hyped? Do you think that it'll be kind of like how what's another good set to compare it to? I would say maybe like Darkwing Blast, where like the archetypes that come out of there are like relevant, but like only a couple of them, like let's just say Fenrir for this sake of argument, kind of lasts the test of time. It is like one of the most broken cards in the game. Do you think that anything's gonna like stick out from here?
I think if anything, obviously SP Little Knight's gonna be cracked. Like that card will be in any deck that is capable of making Link monsters, especially if they can make like IP Masquerena on top of that. That combo, like the IP and the SP combo, is gonna be everywhere. So and then on top of that, like the horror stuff too. That engine's also just crazy. So I think if anything, if everything else flops, even the Diabell Star stuff, I think the set will just be carried off those two things alone. I could be completely wrong, but like in the way my mind works, the way I'm thinking about it, like the Horus cards are just custom. So is SP Little Knight. Like, and those, I think any reason to go to my locals, for example, and like how I want to spend my store credit, etc. Like I feel like, and I haven't seen prices on anything, but I feel like you couldn't go wrong like with buying a box, because depending on what like the secret rare, split is, and like if all the secret rares are all bangers, etc. Like you can't go wrong with buying a set. Whereas like some sets you just like steer clear completely because like there's one good secret rare in it and everything else is garbage, a filler. So I don't know. I feel like I think it will like definitely live up to the hype.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point too, as far as like the spread for rarities, because like there's sets where, let's just take Rise of the Duelist for example, just because I'm talking about it so it's fresh. But cards like Dogmatica Ecclesia, when it came out, was an ultra rare, and it typically ultra rares go from anywhere between like $5 or $6, anywhere up to about maybe like 15, 20, maybe 25 is pushing it. But then you have sets like that where, because it only came out as an ultra and it was so in demand, you got these ultras that are climbing up to prices like $50-$60. I mean, even look at cards. What just happened recently too was another card. Oh, in that same set you had Ice Dragon's Prison, which was started off at like a $5 card, and then all of a sudden it saw some meta relevance, and that spiked crazily from like $25 to like $50 per copy. It was insane, like how these ultras are pulling these sets, and not the secret that I guess would be normally doing that job. So, and I do agree that sometimes that spread does make a difference. Like if you're pulling if you're playing 4 ultras in a box and only 2 secrets, if those ultras are going to be worth more, then who even cares about the secrets? And then, but it's also on the vice versa. If there's too many good secrets, like how that set was, where like droplets had came out, talents had came out as secret, the Dogmatica cards are all, or some of them were secret. Like you're gonna have to fight for slots when you're buying product, or it actually influences the secondary market if you're not buying products and you're just trying to buy singles. So I agree. Hopefully this set isn't too crazy when it comes out, as far as like the initial price spikes when people kind of get their hands on the product, because typically how a newer set releases, the pre-sales will be crazy. So at the time of dropping, the sneak peeks will all have been in circulation, so we have about 4 or 5 days where the prices are kind of high, where people are trying to get their hands on the cards, and then like maybe a week or two after, I'd say about 10 to 14 days, usually the prices will start to fall because everyone gets their hands on it, they're putting it onto the market, that's causing the supply and demand is going to be a little bit cheaper. But then there's times where like cards will just take off, like Zeus out of Phantom Rage, like they just take off and then they just stay up, like they don't even come back down, they don't dip at all. They just know that when it's up, it's stuck.
Yeah.
I think SP Night will definitely be like that. So for those who don't know, we're talking about the cards a little bit. So I'm going to quickly read off what this one does. So this is SP Little Knight. It is a level 2/2 monster, 1600 attack with arrows going left and right. It's a Dark Warrior monster, and it reads 2 effect monsters as its material, which is generic as fuck. If this card is summoned using a Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, or Link material, so if you use an extra deck monster for its summon, you can target 1 card on the field or in either graveyard and banish it. Also, if you use that effect, your monsters cannot attack directly this turn, which is the only setback I think of the card. But if you're using it as a disruption on your opponent's turn, it's not really that big a deal. And it also reads, the second effect is when your opponent activates a card or effect, so basically on the field, in the hand, in the graveyard, doesn't matter, you can chain quick effect, target 2 monsters on the field that are face up, including a monster you control, so similarly to how DPE works, and you can banish both of them until the end phase. Now, you can only use one effect per turn, or each effect once per turn, but that's really all you need. Like, if you target Little Knight itself and then any of your opponent's monsters, you can guarantee that, as like similar to how DPE work, every turn you have a disruption, and every turn you're interacting with your opponent's board, as well as controlling the card advantage on the field. So because you don't always have to target SP Little Knight, you could target another card you control, like a flop monster that you just happen to bullshit summon, and then get rid of that in their opponent's good card. You can get SP Little Knight so that you can protect it from any sort of battling or board breaking that might happen. So that way, at the end phase, you can get it back and still disrupt on the next turn. Like, there's so many applications for this card. It's a link 2. It's easy to make. It's not. I think it should be at least a link 3 or higher for the effect that it's going to have. Like, not to say that it makes it any harder to get into, but it would require a little bit more than just 2. I think we're getting to that point where you got the Verte Anaconda effect, where like you can go do everything you want, get hand trapped all day long, and then still end on this. And this is almost.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent to DPE for sure. It's exactly what it reminds me of now that you bring that up.
Yeah, were you a big fan of the DPE engine when it came out, or
no? I fucking hated it.
Oh, really? Why not?
I hated it so much. Because it's exactly what you said. Like, I could interrupt my opponent at all the right places, and if they have 2 monsters left, I get fucked anyways because they have DPE.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
that's true.
Guess I die now. You have 2 monsters on field. Cool. It's like playing against fucking Math Mech. Where like, oh, they have 2 monsters on field. Guess you die now because double attacking access code. Like, so.
Yep, I guess bullshit. Update Damber. Yeah, I guess update.
No, it's so fucking annoying.
In the transcode, there you go.
I can't wait to deal with that. Gotta stay strapped with those phantasmes.
Yeah, literally, right? I literally lost a game against, I recently lost a game against Salamangreat at locals just to that same thing. I was playing Sprite. I managed to wipe the board, and they just happened to draw, I think it was Gazelle, and Gazelle got him there as far as like being able to dump something. The best one, like literally the best card they needed, and they got it. They dumped the Spinny came out, like splash, bring out,
and then
update, transcode, and then that's it. I just lose, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's a 1-card death. So I do agree with that, and especially with cards like DPE and how they generate advantage throughout the game, and it gets more impactful as the game goes on. Like, yeah, it's hard to play through turn 1 when it comes through. You know what I'm saying? You have to play through it on your turn, which is a non-targeting pop. And this one at least targets, so it's not that bad. But with cards like DPE, they generate you advantage every single turn. Every single turn, once I make this monster, it's taking another opponent's monster out, and then it comes back and it takes another person's monster out. So you have to put more resources into cards every turn just for it to be banished until the end phase. And sometimes it's not that detrimental because obviously it comes back in the end phase, but there are cards like Soul Sweeper and Sprite that when it gets destroyed can shuffle back banished cards. There are cards that are interacting of it that can't be special summoned back if they were improperly special summoned to begin with. So there are definitely ways to utilize this to its maximum ability, so that way you're getting advantage literally every single turn. I think that's like the most broken part of it, is that all those targets come back and you can keep using it every turn. If it was just a turn it was summoned, I think this would be a good card, but not a busted card. But because you can use this literally every single turn, anytime your opponent interacts with you or tries to play the game, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and the thing about this too is, like, unlike DP, there's no main deck engine requirement for this.
That's a good point too. Yes,
2 monsters, and that was I guess it's a trade-off because, like, with DP you had the in-engine requirements that nobody liked drawing, like drawing Celestial Dasher. But that also came with, like, the free Pot of Greed on the follow-up, which was also
the materials did something. Yeah.
But this, you don't have the Bricky Engine requirements, so that's nice. But then you don't get the little Pot of Greed. But
and then even its regular effects. Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, even the main effect, being able to DD Crow or banish a card on the field, that's crazy. Like, I think that's just for having used an extra deck monster for its summon. That's insane to me. The advantage you're generating off it alone.
Yeah, especially since, like, IP Masquerena too is just like, you can just it's like a formula, you know what I mean? You can just do it on your opponent's turn. Like, you couldn't really do that with like DP, but now people have a way to just quickly establish this on the opponent's turn with IP Masquerena. Almost like just like like better Nightmare Unicorn. Like this, like severely
Absolutely,
power
yeah.
creeps Nightmare Unicorn. Like almost
Doesn't
in every
require
way.
doesn't require a discard. It can be used every
Yeah.
single turn. You know what I'm
And then it
saying?
just
Like
makes
that's
it so it can't be destroyed by card effects too. Just on top of that, just because.
yeah, literally for sure. Like it's insane. Like especially if you make it with IP. I think that when it gets banished off the field face up, if you use IP for it, the effects of IP don't linger onto it when it returns to the field. But either way, just being able to protect yourself for the whole turn and then threaten like. Usually you'd use this effect when you feel threatened or when your monster feels, you know, your advantage is in a compromising position. But if you have it with IP and it's not being destroyed, like it's hard to even threaten over this to begin with. You'd have to go into a battle phase and attempt to directly attempt to destroy the monster in order to proc the effect. But now you're just wasting your battle phase to get rid of one monster in your opponent's field. I think that's kind of crazy, like how the interaction really is going to swing in most people's favors just by summoning the card itself.
Yeah.
And then you got cards also like hold on a second, read this name here. Then you also have cards like Stellar Nemesis, Tifu, Doomsday Star. It's one hell of a long convoluted.
That's a fucking badass name.
Yeah, it is a badass name. I'm not gonna lie. I think the OCG name was better. I think it was like Super Star Slayer Typhon or whatever.
Yeah, they always get the good names.
We get I wish we sometimes get the
versions.
Yeah, we get the censored versions. But this one is another great card. I think is going to be utilized. Think of it similarly to Zeus. That's why the nickname for this card is Anti-Zeus. For those who don't know, this is a rank 12 Fiend Dark monster with 2900 attack and 2900 defense, so almost similar to Zeus as far as how it mirrors itself, but only 100 points less, and you'll find out why in a second. It requires 2 level 12 monsters to make, or you can use this effect by XYZ summoning this card over one monster you control with the highest attack during the turn or after the turn that your opponent has special summoned 2 or more monsters from the extra deck, and you can transfer its materials over to this card. If summoned this way, you cannot normal or special summon monsters the rest of the turn after you summon it. It has a blanket effect that neither player can activate effects of monsters with 3,000 or more attack while you control this XYZ summon card. And that's not just on the field. That is period. Your opponent cannot activate effects like Nibiru, effects like, I would say, Photon Lord, anything in the graveyard that would attempt to trigger. Nothing. You can't even attempt to activate it, which is busted. And then on top of all of that, once per turn, you can detach one material from this card. Non-targeting, return one monster on the field to the hand. Doesn't have to be face up. Doesn't say it can't be face down. Doesn't target. It gets around most protection because it's going back to the hand or into the extra deck. Some monsters would go. I think this is a hell of a card. It's a floodgate monster. It's summoned very, very easily. It makes your opponent have to force interaction out crazy early, because if they just comboed off and went 3, 4, 5 cards from the extra deck, and then your opponent summons one monster, and I don't have to, I would say, like Mirror Jade banish a monster or Zeus send the field. If they summon one monster, they can stick this monster right on top, and then because they have one attachment attached to it, they can detach it and bounce the most problematic card on the field to the hand. And it's on the field too. If for some reason you wanted to bounce your own monsters, you could do that as well to be able to summon them again or proc another effect or however you would want. But it literally, being able to slap this on the field, have a pretty big size monster to sit on, and then floodgate your opponent from activating monster effects, as well as has a non-targeting detach to return a card on the field to the hand, that is just insane to me.
That summoning requirement, like, and to be honest, it's been a little while since I read this card and I've completely forgotten what it does, but now that I've reread it, that summoning requirement is just broken. Like, that makes any deck now going second just can immediately just threaten this card and threaten the bounce, and obviously the floodgate potential too. Is kind of broken.
Insane.
It just sucks that it says like 3,000 attack, 3,000 or more attack. And I mean that's not going to be like a blanket thing against every deck, depending on what deck like you're playing against.
Yeah, correct. But most boss monsters are definitely going to be held at bay with this.
And another thing too is like it floodgates both players. So like I feel like one thing you could do, I don't know how practical it would be, but like you could summon it, force, like use the bounce effect, and since it doesn't target, and you could just like that gives them the opportunity to like force something out to like stop that bounce effect, and then if they don't like use anything, you can just like bounce back the
The cards they couldn't use. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do that as well too. Yeah. Or even I was hearing things like your opponent makes a Overlord Savage Dragon. A Barone is very, very popular right now. It has 3,000 attack. You can now summon a monster. Doesn't even matter what one. Like literally anything.
That's so broken.
Your opponent can't obviously interact with that. And then you could slap this down and then return that problem card. You could return that Barone to the extra deck. You could return that Boral End Dragon that Dragon Link player made back to the extra deck. That Mirror Jade that branded fusion player that branded player just brought out. You know, there's so many things that you can use this for that application of this card.
They can't even
that's
respond
crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just gonna trade instantly with anything. That's so good.
For real, and the advantage of going second now. I had the argument at locals a couple weeks ago that they were making more cards that you're able to utilize going second, because I think that I think Konami knows. I think we're all aware that the advantage of going first is just too tremendous. Even with having a 6 card in the hand for the draw and not being able to draw turn 1, but being able to draw on the following turn, I think that is not enough. Starting with 6 cards just sometimes doesn't do it enough when these people are building these crazy boards or putting up advantage disruption. If they're going to disrupt me 8 times, it doesn't matter if I have 6 cards. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but being able to make cards like this that kind of give going second a better pace on the game, or where you don't have to just play board breakers or bust just to be able to play, I think is a good way for it. It's a good pace setting for the way that the format might lead to.
Yeah, I think especially since it has the restriction it has on it is pretty hefty. You cannot normal or special monsters the rest of the turn. That's very hefty cost.
Yes.
So I think that'll probably help out like slower control decks. Like for example, like I could see like a deck like Labyrinth or something similar to Labyrinth, a very control based deck playing this card. Yeah, because you could like normal summon. Yeah, because this is for the rest of turns. You could like normal summon something or special summon out a body, and then just make this force out or just get rid of a monster they have, like a Baron, for example, just an easy example, and then like set 4, and then just like pass on that, and then you have like the floodgate effect going for it, and then you have all your back row, and you just like deleted a boss monster for free.
Yeah, not including the fact that the Labyrinth boss monsters I think are 2,900 attack too, so they still get to trigger and activate as well. But it also, let's say you normal summon that Ariana. Now that they're probably forced to play the gates now. They might be more encouraged or inclined to activate that Barone to negate that Ariana to clear the monster off the board, just so that they don't get Doomstarred. You know what I'm saying? Like this, I think will be a format warping card. Like it'll the same way how Nibiru came out. You start getting cautious, or you start getting weary after your 5th summon if your opponent has Nibiru or not. Like it's just, even if they don't have it, it's still in the back of your head. This will be another card that we'll have to just keep. All right, I just used 2 extra deck monsters on my turn. All right, I gotta be ready for my opponent to slap down this Doomstar. Like you got to have a game plan ready for it. I think this is definitely going to reflect the way that we start deck building, especially going second.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Very strong
and then
card.
We also have cards like Angelic. Hold on, let me just take this up real quick. Angelic. What the fuck is that shit?
I think on DB it's called Angel Ring.
Oh, Ring. It is Ring. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's our American name. So then we also have Angelica's Angelic Ring, which is an equip spell that I assume that most Infernoble players and Makanko players are going to probably start utilizing, so we might have to be familiar with it. I think it's a really crazy card. And it is it is an equip spell card that reads, equipped only to a monster that you control that is equipped with an equipped card. So it has to already have an equipped card on it for you to even activate this to equip to it. You can only control one Angelica's Angelic Ring, so you can only control 1 copy of it on the field. But it does read, each turn, negate the effect of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves. Meaning it is not an activated effect, and it is a mandatory. So the first spell that happens has to get resolved, or it has to get negated no matter what. So I kind of like that. And then it also reads, once per turn, while this card is equipped to a monster, you can gain 500 life points, destroy this card, and if you do, your opponent cannot target the monster that was equipped with this card with card effects while it is in the monster zone, which is crazy because it doesn't just last for the turn. It doesn't last for 2 turns. As long as that monster is there in that main monster zone, it's going to be untargetable, which I think is actually a pretty good effect for, especially for those decks that I mentioned that have a tough time being able to stop the board breakers that do target them.
Yeah, and it stops Super Poly too, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's one of the only cards that can. It reminds me similarly to how we were looking up, I think it was Magician's right hand. It's either right hand or left hand, but I'm like 85% sure it's right hand. And that reads a similar effect. It's negate the first spell card that your opponent activates as long as you control a spellcaster. But this one I think is going to be a little bit easier to get into for decks like Infernoble, for decks like Makanko that have the ability to equip things directly from the graveyard to them, and then being able to use them on the field for cards like Gearfried.
Yeah,
to be able,
it's definitely an interesting card.
Get another negate on top. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Because I'm playing the Infernoble deck right now, and this is a card I've been looking at here and there, but I don't know if this is a card I would main per se. Like, it might just be a side deck card, if anything, like going first a side deck card to be able to beat Dark Ruler and be able to beat Super Poly, etc. Because the deck, like Infernoble, definitely can play around Super Poly. It just sucks though because your end board usually has to be double Link Charles, which means you're running on just double Spell Trap Negate, which like it's good, but it's not the most versatile end board. Where like you could end on like Charles, Link, Gearfried, and Baron, but that can get Super Poly'd pretty easily because you have two fire warriors, so they just Garura you if they're playing it. So it's nice to be able to like tech side this in, kind of like similar to Metal Silver Armor. I think this is just like a better Metal Silver Armor at the end of the day, just because it has the ability to stop things like Dark Ruler and Super Poly, which the deck inherently has a hard time dealing with.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I think if anything, it's a very strong side deck card. For Infernoble, especially like Makanko. Fuck that deck. First of all, I have no idea. I don't care about that deck. Hope no one ever plays the fucking deck ever again. But in Infernoble,
yeah, we got a couple local players who know it.
Yeah, fuck them. We got the Saint During card.
We're looking at you, Christian.
Put it in the side deck for sure. And yeah, because my friend Dalen, you know him too, obviously. He's been helping me out a lot with the Infernoble deck recently, so shout outs to him, and be interested to see what he has to say about this, because he's my go-to when it comes to the authority and deck building on the Infernoble technique.
No, absolutely. We have I think 2 Infernoble players. I think we have shout outs to Noah Clay, who usually goes out there and plays Infernoble every week, and then one of our better players, Eric Christensen. Has played the deck for a brief little bit too, but he eventually put it down when he switched back over to the nonsense he's on right now. But I was also a big fan of the way that deck plays, and that's just another way, as you said, even the side deck, you can dump it up for a sold, yes, and a sold dark target. You can also be able to, like you said, protect yourself from cards like Dark Ruler No More or the board breakers that you know are going to be sided in, going second, evenly matched, things like of that nature. So you know that those spell cards are going to be there, especially with cards like Thrust and Tactics still around. Like, you definitely want to make sure that you're protecting yourself at all costs. So I think this it might be a definitely a side spot for Infernoble. I think Makakos could main it, but I think you just put a good argument for it being in the side, which is just another good card. I think that for the the toolbox decks to have. Oh, we also have cards like Ken the Warrior Dragon and Jen the Diamond Tiger. So I don't know if most people have heard about these, but these are 2 level 3 monsters that are being released in Age of Overlord 2 that help out decks like Dark World or decks that are very, very heavy with talents and tactics. And I will explain to what they do in a second. So this is Ken the Warrior Dragon. He is a light warrior level 3 monster, 1300 attack, 1550 defense. I don't know what's mad weird like that. But once per turn at the end of the battle phase, you return this card from the field to the hand. Or sorry, return this card from the field to the hand, mandatory. Similar to how Dragon Maids work. You can only use the following effects of Ken the Warrior Dragon once per turn. During your main phase, you can special summon one Jen the Diamond Tiger from your deck or hand to your opponent's field and defense position. If this card itself is special summoned by Jen the Diamond Tiger, your opponent draws 2 cards and then they discard 1. So this reads saying if this itself is special summoned by the Gen Dog, because you all find out that the Gen Dog, surprisingly, is going to special out the Ken. That's why Ken will special out Gen. But when Ken itself is special summoned to your opponent's field, it makes your opponent activate the effect that you, the person who summoned it, gets to draw 2 cards and then discard 1. So you're also checking your hand and then discarding cards that you would like, triggering cards like Tear Elements or Shadalls. Anything like the Horus monsters that are going to be used can be like utilized in the graveyard. So there's a big applications for it. Dark World is going to be able to use this because now you can get rid of your Silva, and then Silva is now going to activate, which is going to rip 2 from your opponent. And so these are really strong monsters. And then so not only do you get to draw 2 and discard, but you now have a monster on your opponent's side of the field. So if you activate cards like Thrust, you can now search for whatever card you want instead of having to set it because your opponent didn't have a monster, like as if they hand trapped you like an Ash or something like that. You can now add it to your hand. And then cards like Tactics are live, so you can have, I'm not saying you probably would want to unless you really needed the combo, but you can Tactics, take a card, you can rip another card out their hand, see what you have to play around, what else they got in the hand, all while just giving up your normal summon. Like, this is insane. And then you have Jen the Diamond Tiger, who gets summoned out by him. He is a level 3 light warrior monster with 800 attack and 2000 defense, and he reads once per turn at the end of the battle phase, return this card from the field to the hand. So obviously this is a mandatory effect, you can't get around it. And you can only use each of the following effects of Jen the Diamond Tiger once per turn. During your phase, you can special summon one Ken the Warrior Dragon, so the one we just previously read, from your hand or deck to your opponent's field and defense position. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Ken the Dragon Warrior, discard 1 card. Meaning, if this one is brought off from Ken going onto your opponent's side of the field, your opponent will activate a card, or will activate the Gen, and then discard a card from their own hand. So you're still negging them while getting them to trigger effects. So cards like Kashtira and can still use that. You can special summon Unicorn, normal summon Ken, special a Gen to your opponent's side of the field. Gen would then activate, make them discard a card, and then Unicorn gets to activate. Now you get to know some hand knowledge or some deck knowledge as to what you're going against, knowing that you can look at 1 card from their hand that goes to the graveyard, and now look at their extra deck to be able to rip another pivotal card that might stop their strategy. So the implications for these cards, I think, are really, really crazy. And I think that being able to get rid of the hand advantage, like the looping, I think is insane. And then being able to fix your hand, it's basically like a mini Phantasmate, so that you get the normal summon. So what are your thoughts on both of these cards?
I think they seem like they're going to be pretty good. They definitely seem like they have a lot of utility, just like in a select few decks. Like you said, like Dark World, Tier, etc., being able to trigger like hand effects and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very, very interesting thing. I think time will tell with these cards to see what people get into it. And they seem like they could... I don't know, just first of all, it seems very confusing, like reading these cards. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so like one summons like the other, and they all have their own effects. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems
when
like
they're
a card,
summoned by the other.
When it gets dropped on me in real life, I'm gonna have to fucking spend like a good 2 minutes like reading each of them several times just to get a grasp.
Yeah, if it gets dropped on you, the only one you'll have to read is the last line, which is the effect that you're triggering as the player who's receiving the card. But that's all you have to know. This might be an Ash-worthy card, though. Like, I think that some people will actually have to bait out. So not only you take your normal summon to bait out a hand trap, like Ash, Thaler, or something like that, Imperm. But if they let it go through, you're still ripping a card out their hand by activating the Gen on their field, getting them to discard. Or if you're obviously digging with the Ken, you can draw 2, discard 1. Hopefully you saw a thruster, can thrust into a talent to be able to look at your opponent's hand and still inevitably rip out a card, all without special summoning or all without comboing. This is all just your normal summon. I think that's insane.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the Neospace connector package in Aqua Dolphin. It's kind of similar in that sense. Like if you don't hand trap the connector, Dolphin's gonna rip a card out, and if you ash the connector, it still ripped a card out. It's kind of the same concept.
Yeah,
it seems like.
Exactly. I do agree with that. I think it will be utilized in specific decks, but I think that the specific decks that it's going to utilize in will be game breaking for him. I think that this would actually, I'll go on record saying that I think this would push Dark Worlds into about maybe a 1.5 tier where people will start playing it more in representation because it is just so much gas, and then this gives it so much more advantage. And or cards that or decks that play rank 3 toolboxes similar to like maybe Virtual World or what's that fucking PK Phantom Knights. They could also utilize this card to be able to go into their extra deck for their rank 3s, or maybe what's that one that foolish is the fucking Phantom Knight.
Cherubini.
Yeah, Cherubini. They can go into the Cherubinis and be able to dump a card and get their engine started. I think that this will definitely see some applications in all of these decks, and that the applications will be strong.
For sure.
Is there anything else that you think that, like singles wise, people should be looking out for?
Off the top of my head, that I can think of, no, not that I can think of.
I think we covered a good 5 cards that people should be looking out for. At least weary that is going to be in the format coming, next week, or even at your sneak peek that you probably played at. Coming down to the last couple topics, just want to talk about the archetypes that are coming out. We have the Horus archetype, which is the rank 8 spam deck, and then we have the Snake Eyes that's going to be known as the Diabell Stars if you're teching that engine. We also have the Vitas, but they're just a whole bunch of pendulum support, so no one cares about that. But between those two, I know a lot of people have been really hyping both of these in their own aspects. And do you have anything that you know offhand or have heard in the street? Because maybe if you haven't heard this set or paid attention to anything that's going on as far as within this set, you may have heard something that someone may have said, or any kind of like reputation that you've heard as far as how strong these archetypes are going to be.
I'm sorry, which 2 archetypes are you talking about again?
Horus and Diabell Star, which would be Snake Eyes.
So the only thing I know about Horus is that, because I know my friend Dan has been hyping these cards up a while, and he's a very avid Tearlament enjoyer.
Oh my god, here we go.
He's ready to make Zombie Vampire rank 8.
Yep.
Which is kind of broken, giving Tear not only like infinite discard outlet because of the sarcophagus spell, but then also getting them access to a mill 4 on both players' turns. So it's like
and a special.
It's like a pseudo. It's almost like another pseudo like a Shizu, because milling the opponent's deck is in some cases bad, but in some cases good, because like for example, if you're playing an engine that has like specific requirements in the deck, like the adventure package, for example, like if your Faithful Adventure gets milled off that, like it kind of sucks for you. So it kind of affect deck building in that way. If Tier gets more popular, which it already is gaining popularity like 100% because of Rystart being gone, and it's just like needless. Because I hate Tier so much. Like I hated Tier format so much. It's like I don't understand why they keep printing these like side archetypes. Like, oh, these are the Shizu support. No, it's not. It's just Tier support. Just call it. Call them Tier monsters. Like, this is not Horus support.
Yeah, this is Tier Element Seguido.
This is fucking propaganda. Fucking Tier Element support 2.0. Like, it's actually ridiculous. And like Zombie Vampire just happens to be cracked. But and then like in Dark World, you can make like probably Coach King Giant Trainer very easy with this engine.
Absolutely.
And who knows what else it's going to be put in.
I mean, it's obviously going to be played with dangers as well. Like, you can imagine activating a Bigfoot, hitting one of the Horus cards, and then specialing a Bigfoot, getting a draw, and then activating the Horus card to be able to foolish again. So,
they're just all custom cards. Like, somebody was on crack when they designed those. And then the Diabell Star cards, I'm a little in the dark end. I've only heard certain things about it. Like, I've heard that it's really good, but outside of that, I really don't know as much like things that it can be played in as I do about the horror stuff. So I know it can be played in Rescue Ace. 'Cause I think my friend Adam, who unfortunately couldn't join us tonight, but I'm pretty sure he was testing Diabellstar and Rescue Ace, or maybe it was another deck. But
yeah, no, definitely was Rescue Ace. Yep.
yeah, but I don't know. It seems like it'll have a little niche potential. I feel like it's one of those cards too that are like, as more people play with it and they experiment with more decks, like it's gonna be like a kind of a card that'll probably keep going up in price over time, for sure. Especially as like a standalone monster too, as it stands right now. Could obviously get more support in coming
Yeah,
sets.
absolutely, because it's a utilizing a lot of different decks as well. Like Kashtira can play it because it's a 7, which also searches board breakers, like the Evil Eye card that we got in Duelist Nexus. That's the card that targets and puts to the back row, so they can utilize it that way. And there's also the cards that they search in Archetype are actually pretty good as well. So I'll touch up on the Diabellstars real quick just because you're unfamiliar with them. So we have Diabellstar, the Dark Witch, which is the main monster most people are going to be playing with this deck. You can play it at either 1 or 2 if you're feeling like it might get bestial or some dumb shit, but it's not like it's a big deal because the spells bring them back. But you could, this is how it reads. It is a level 7 spellcaster that is dark with 2,500 attack and 2,000 defense. And it reads, you can only special summon with the first card of the effect once per turn. So you can special summon this card from your hand by sending one other card from your hand or field to the graveyard. So it just happens, you send it and then you special it out. If this card is normal or special summon, you can set one Takeful Treasure or Sinful Spoils card from your spell trap. You can set one Sinful Spoils card directly from your deck to the field. If this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard during your opponent's turn, so if they get rid of it in any way, you can send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard and special summon this card, allowing you to re-trigger its effect to set one from the deck. Exactly. So and the sinful spells all have different little toolboxes. So I know, although I butchered that, you just know that it's a free special summon by pitching. So if you have a graveyard reliant deck, similarly to like how Elements would play, or anything that would ascend, you could special summon it for free, but more or less with this card. So it's a 1.5 card combo. It doesn't eat up your normal summon. It's going to directly set a card from your deck, and then if it gets sent to the graveyard during your opponent's turn, you get to special summon it back and then set another card as follow-up for your turn if anything were to happen. And then the one real good card I think that it searches, like the kind of like key card for its archetype, is called Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils. It is a quick play spell card that reads, add one Diabellstar monster from your deck to your hand or graveyard to your hand. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your Sinful Spoil spells that is banished or in your graveyard, accept itself, place it on the bottom of your deck, and then draw a card. You can only use each effect once per turn, which is pretty crazy. So you get to add the Diabellstar Dark Witch and then immediately be able to use this effect to set another copy of itself. So you have constant access to it. And then if for some reason any of your cards get banished, because I think there are effects that banish them from the graveyard, you can target it, bring it back to the bottom of your deck, and then draw a card, all being able to do this on turn 1. So it's literally insane, the ability that these cards have. If you activate Shifter or anything like that, you're still being able to, if they activate Shifter, like I would say after you're able to play this, because this is in the draw phase, so you'd be able to gain one of your cards back to your deck and draw one as well. So this deck, I think, or this engine at least, will be able to do really well. There's another card, as you said, your Rescue Ace player would be wary of. It's a card that if you control the Dark Witch, you're able to special summon a level 1 Pyro monster, a level 1 Fire monster from your deck to the field. And then most people would special summon their Hydrant, and then now Hydra's being able to search you a card and you get your combos going all without your normal summon.
I see.
Yeah, so it's really cool because now you can set the Diabellstar spell traps and then set 4 off of Turbulence, and now you're playing through an entire back row as well as the monsters that basically want you to interact with them, such as Preventer or the Diabellstar. If it gets removed, you're able to bring it back. So it does get wild.
Yeah.
And then you obviously have the Horus cards, where, as you read, they are discard cards. They like to Foolish Burial themselves and other cards, and they basically just span themselves out by bringing themselves back from the graveyard once per turn for free, and then you could they don't lock you into anything, so you just use them as a rank 8 material and to kind of like pull the toolbox of like Dengirsu. You can go Photon Star, you can go all those rank 8s that are out there. The toolbox is endless. Sky Prison, all those things.
4 big guys, that's what we call them. 4 big guys.
Yeah, 4 big 8.
4 big guys.
So do you think that with these implications or add-ons, do you think that these new decks will rise in power, like decks like Rescue Ace, maybe like even cards like the I would say what is it here, Dark Worlds, even decks like Sprite with SP Little Knight, and then people being able to utilize the thrusts and talents for the Jen and Ken plays. Like, do you think any of these decks are probably going to like see anything, or do you think it'll just be like as we were, like Unchained, Tier Elements, Pearly will still be the top decks, period?
Yeah, I think the overall like hierarchy of the meta will probably remain the same for the most part, like as far as what the best decks are. I just think every other deck that wasn't the best deck already just gets better to begin with. Like all the decks we already talked about, like Rescue Ace, Dark World, Sprite, Tier, etc., etc. Like they're all just gonna be better because of these cards. Maybe it shifts, like Pearly, Unchained, etc., etc. What other decks I'm forgetting? But like maybe it shifts that a little bit. Like even Infernoble getting a way to beat Dark World, so like it just makes all these decks that weren't like so good before, but we're still like in the format, and there's already so many decks in the format to begin with, which obviously I know some people don't like that, which is fair enough, but like it just makes all those decks already like just way better to begin with. Like a Rise Heart banning like opened up like 15 more decks that were just auto lost to before are now playable, and like another good handful of decks that were already in the format are just now better because of these cards.
Yeah, I think Rise Heart, I was talking in the last episode that it did gatekeep a lot of other decks, and because the gatekeeper is no longer there, that we'll have to be at the whims of whatever these graveyard decks can really put up, because the only other decks that are still playing it, I mean, Kashtira is still being played as a going second deck, which isn't necessarily a bad idea. I see the reason for it, which is not that bad, but I still don't think it's the best version of it. Someone's eventually going to crack that deck, but it'll be without the Arise Heart for sure. But if you're like maybe Flunder that's playing the shifter in the main, other than that, you're just gonna have to be at the whims of if they're all right. Are they a tier lover? Am I going against a tier match? If so, they're gonna be able to shuffle all my shit back as well as build an incredible board. And even still, they can play through shifter. I do agree that it won't initially shake the chains, but I do think that it will, as you said, add on to the power of these, I would say, lesser decks, and maybe even not like the power, but maybe even just the representation is really all that these decks would need to be able to diversify things a little bit afterwards, like to really kind of see how this deck forms, or sorry, especially after how Indie is going to give us a little bit of a peek into what this real format's going to look like. It'll be the first major event that all these cards are legal in.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I guess the last question we're going to ask you, because I know we're starting to run out of time here, would be, what will you be playing after the set release? And I guess I'll preface this with saying after one deck 1 month ends out and Infernoble's done, what is the next deck that you're even going to play? I would say maybe on a competitive level, whether it's just something you like, or maybe you've given us the secret goo on what the next one deck 1 month is actually going to be.
Well, the secret goo is not so well, I mean, I guess it is kind of secret if you think about it in a certain way, but the community,
exclusiveness.
the community will be deciding what deck we play. So there will be a poll.
Oh, hold on, say that one more time. You cut out 1 sec.
Yeah, the community will be deciding what the next deck I play on that series would be, because we hit the $500 goal for our fundraiser. So
hey, that's what's up. Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a little nervous about that because I have no idea what they'll pick. Maybe they'll want a repeat of something, a revisit, or maybe they'll want something entirely new. Only time will tell. But for the meantime, even after one deck 1 month is over, I'll probably still continue to play in for Noble Knight because like I like playing the deck. I think the deck is pretty good. It feels very rewarding to play, and being able to beat board breakers now post Age of Overlord feels nice too. Beat them for the most part.
Being able
Obviously,
to
it's not.
being able to beat board breakers start right there.
Yeah, and the other thing is, oh yeah, Speedroid Cashier would be another deck that I want to get back into playing. Shout out to my friend Aerosol, who actually got to test with a little bit yesterday.
Aerosol TCG?
Yes,
Yo,
sir.
the god.
Yeah, the Speedroid God. Yeah, Earth Machine God. Got top 32 at German Nats with Speedroid Cashier, and he's going to another YCS soon.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to reach out to him. Maybe we can get him on the podcast as well and pick his brain a little bit. He's another goated player for guys who don't know who he is. He is the pilot for, as he's mentioned, Speedroids. He is the creator of the, I would say, modern way of playing Earth Machines, as far as slamming the infinite tracks, the machinas, and then the rank 10s all together, and playing dozer control. So he's just a crazy mind, and I'd love to pick it. That's a really good time. We'll have to get in contact sometime. We'll have Winter Kills put in a good word for us.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
So what do you think that they're gonna actually vote on? Is there like a preference your fan base kind of wants you towards in those comment sections?
Probably be something rogue, because it's 10.
You are the rogue god.
Yeah, sure. That's just I
would say the rogue warrior at best.
yeah, sure, whatever. But yeah, I feel like people tend to like seeing more of my channels, like more rogue stuff. So it'll probably be something along that. I'm literally just gonna make a community post, and it's gonna be like, give me what are decks you guys want to see play, and then like whatever like the most liked, like I would say like the 5 or 4 most liked things. I'll make another poll with those and let that go for like a couple of days, and then whichever one's the most voted for will be the next one. That's probably the easiest way I think I can go about letting the community decide which deck they want.
Yeah, that definitely seems like the play right there. And I'm gonna obviously spam with all my bot accounts Cyber Dragon, because how we do out here, Hail Sidra. Yeah, we're gonna make sure this man is activating Clockwork Knight and then going into Duality for game. So
yeah.
But I appreciate that. We're definitely gonna make sure that we get you back on to make sure we find out what that one deck is, because I love that series. It's one of my favorite series. I think that it's what got me into playing Earth Machines competitively, because you picked it up after talking to Aerosol, and I just personally have a big love for you and your channel, and I think this is one of your better series for it, and I just love to see how it develops and shit for you. So most success on this in the next deck. Hopefully your audience and fan base gives you at least a decent deck to be able to compete.
Hopefully.
And it's not just flu,
and it's not just
would you play flu? If they comment flu, if they all said flu, would you have the guts to play it?
I'd have to play it. I can't say no. I wouldn't be happy about it.
I can picture every single episode just depressed ass fucking Winter Kill.
That would be the thumbnail.
So I normal my Rabina. Yeah, I chain my Eaglin. Yep, I search the Ampana. I don't know how many times you guys want me to do this combo for you.
Yeah, you guys voted for this, so here we go. Not happy about it, but
yeah, no, I feel that. No, absolutely. So, but we are starting to run out of life points here. I just want to give a special thanks to Winter Kills for coming on out here. I will definitely be sure to link his information down in the description box below. And speaking of which, while you're down there, be sure to click on that Linktree link. Go on the descriptions, see all of the tabs that are there, and follow all of those sites, because like I said, we're giving away those gifts. We're closest on X with 50, and then we have Instagram at I think 92, and YouTube I think is at like 75, 76, something like that. So we're pretty close on all those platforms. So go share with your friends, get them involved, and be a part of the community that we have that is ever growing. Shout out to our sponsors, Unplugged Gaming and Manlius. Be sure to join their Discord and our Discord down in that description box below as well. They will be hosting the area and storefront for us to host the Age of Overlord case tournament on Saturday, October 21st. So shout outs to Joe for allowing us to do that. Be sure to come on down. It's $25. The whole case is up on grabs. And if we get more than 30 people to show up, another case will be added into the prize pool, allowing it to be 2 cases for grabs. So be sure to invite your friends. Come on down. It's going to be the first event that Age of Overlord will be legal. So that's going to be something for you. And then also, before we leave, I just want to remind you that everyone goes and checks out Brad, aka Mr. Perfect's Twitch streams. He's live every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's Easter Coast for anyone who has the time zone. Be sure to make sure you're in the New York time. He will be streaming, doing deck profiles, deck lists, deck theories, and anytime he has anything interesting pop up on screen, we definitely be sure to talk about it in our Friday night wrap-ups. So be sure to go down there as well. Before we close out, do you have any last comments or final thoughts about the show, the content, the set Age of Overlord that's going to be dropping?
I think we covered everything pretty good, and just want to say thanks for having me on again, and appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. I'd love to have you on. You're one of the pivotal parts in the Western community, and you definitely have the mindset that most people don't have, being such a rogue contender and having the mindset of let's approach this from a different angle. So I always love to talk to people like that.
Appreciate it.
Also, be sure to check out Imperium Duelist. Be sure to use this code.
Winter Kills 10 off. Yep, obnoxiously long code, but yeah, that's what Winter Kills 10 off.
With that being said, guys, appreciate all of you guys tuning in and listening. I am Player X, and you have been listening to the Semi-Limited Podcast. Thank you, and good night.